Tonight, the political backlash continues over Ottawa and Alberta's new energy deal. As Canadians question the merits of this controversial agreement.
She's not going to be universally praised for this in her own province.
Why many are angry at Premier Danielle Smith as she faces challenges and uncertainty over her pipeline win. Plus, what should have been one woman's salvation turned into her nightmare.
The amount of mouse droppings is disgusting. There's ants all in my closet.
The criticism she's hurling at an East Coast shelter and how Nova Scotia is responding. And a delicious, friendly feud.
Some people, they prefer my samosa. Some people, they prefer their samosa.
How a pair of Fredericton food stands go head-to-head in a weekly samosa showdown.
$9, please.
CTV National News with Heather Butts. Reporting tonight, John Venevali Rao.
Good evening. There continues to be political fallout over that much-touted energy deal agreed to this week between Alberta and Ottawa. The agreement was said to be a reset of relations, but both sides continuing to take some heat for it. Here's CTV's Jeremy Sharon leading us off tonight.
Greeted by her party faithful in Edmonton today, Premier Danielle Smith gave the keynote address at the United Conservative Party's annual general meeting.
We have helped to turn the tide of national public opinion from being anti-oil and gas into a countrywide consensus that Alberta's energy resources are a national treasure that can and must be developed.
This just days after Smith signed an energy agreement with the Prime Minister. But as the saying goes, in a good compromise, no one is happy.
I hope people today feel a lot more confident that Canada works than they did a couple of days ago.
The Premier's deal with Ottawa wasn't exactly warmly welcomed by her party's grassroots members.
She's not going to be universally praised for this in her own province. For those who are interested in separating, this doesn't go far enough for them.
Meanwhile, environmentalists argue it's the wrong investment at the wrong time, pointing to an expected plateau in oil demand globally in the next decade.
When I look at this MOU on an imaginary pipeline with no backer, no business case, and no demand on the other side, my concern primarily is actually for the economies of Alberta.
Prime Minister Mark Carney and his government are doing damage control too. Energy Minister Tim Hodgson made a trip to BC Friday to meet Premier David Eby, who is vehemently opposed to a potential pipeline through his province.
It was a challenging but frank exchange between us.
The BC Premier has expressed frustration he was not included in talks between Alberta and Ottawa, something the government has committed to doing in the future. John?
A story we'll be watching. Thanks, Jeremy. Turning to artificial intelligence now, and concerns that some governments may not be properly weighing the risks as they expand the use of AI. This as Ottawa has announced the launch of a new public AI registry. CTV's Colton Prail looks into what's behind that.
For the first time, Canadians are getting an idea of how the federal government is using artificial intelligence. From identifying insects to analyzing immigration permits, combating human trafficking, and acting as a chatbot, a new government registry lists over 400 instances where the technology is being used in varying capacities.
It's imperative that we build trust because things will get better and more complicated.
But as governments turn to AI, there are also significant security concerns around storing and accessing Canadians' personal data.
If you're going to build another layer of added value using current AI technologies, then the question is, does that extra layer provide an extra risk of exposure?
This longtime Canadian AI scientist says creating a made-in-Canada tool is one way to minimize the risk. It's something Mark Carney's government has pledged to do.
What we're not seeing is the kind of preemptive work we need to investigate the impact of these systems, to make those impact assessments public before these systems are put to use.
This week, Alberta announced it will be the first Canadian jurisdiction to use AI in drafting government legislation for a bill defining Albertan whiskey.
AI gets it wrong, then we can use human writers that can correct it.
But as governments of all orders move to use AI more, polling shows most Canadians are at least cautious, if not skeptical, of its use.
Canadians are worried, not just about the impact on jobs and the labor market, but they're also worried about misinformation, disinformation.
As Canada looks to expand its AI use over the next 2 years, critics have highlighted concerns over a possible loss of public service jobs. Ottawa counters that new tech will create opportunities and transition plans will help impacted workers. John.
All right, thanks. Colton in Ottawa tonight. In communities right across the country, the housing crisis and homelessness are challenges so many people face. And in Nova Scotia, one woman is sharing her own experience of living in a shelter, a place that should be clean and safe, but she says it was far from it. Here's CTV's Paul Hollingsworth.
It's another difficult day in the life of Jordan O'Toole, who has been homeless for more than a year. The 30-year-old previously spent 11 months living in a tent in harsh winter conditions.
There was one night we ran out of propane on one of the coldest nights towards Christmas last year.
3 months ago, O'Toole was assigned a room at this homeless shelter called The Bridge, a former hotel that offers 178 beds. She thought it could be a fresh start, but instead says she was exposed to high levels of drug use.
I had been clean for 7.5 years before this. And once I fell homeless, I fell back into addiction.
O'Toole also shared videos and pictures showing a mouse and rodent feces on her bed and covering the floor in her room.
The amount of mouse droppings is disgusting. There's ants all in my closet. Mice droppings can cause humans and animals to get extremely sick.
This shelter is funded by the provincial government. In a statement, Nova Scotia's Department of Opportunities and Social Development said, no Nova Scotian should be living in the kinds of conditions you've described. There are standards in the homelessness and supportive housing sector when it comes to safety, infrastructure, and on-site services and supports for residents. The province also highlighted some good news stories coming from this facility. More than 100 people have recently transitioned from the bridge and have moved to permanent housing. According to Canada's federal housing advocate, the bad news still outweighs the good, and the province needs to do more to provide safer options.
They need to stop pointing fingers at other levels of government, put their pants on, and get to work and really address it. And the answer to any homelessness is adequate housing.
O'Toole wants to live in a stable housing environment and be removed from what she says are unsafe conditions. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Dartmouth, Nova Scotia.
There was a huge demonstration in Montreal today involving Quebec's major labor unions. Tens of thousands marched through the streets expressing their anger with the Quebec government and what they say is an assault on workers' rights and cuts to public services. Members from 9 unions took part. Also in that province, there are new concerns about spending cuts at universities, something many across the country are grappling with. Following several policy changes, English language universities in Quebec have been hit particularly hard. Here's CTV's Geneviève Beauchemin.
Budget cuts have hit hollowed halls of learning in Canada, striking several aspects of campus life.
A lot of us, we came here for the program, for the prestige of McGill University.
McGill University's announcement, it would slash 24 varsity and competitive teams, including the historic and famed track and field program, sent a jolt through the sports world.
It's a world-class facility that we used time and time again. So yeah, it is a bit of a blow and a shock.
The university pointed to budget constraints as one of the factors, saying in a statement, simply put, our unit can no longer effectively manage or support the same number of activities while maintaining the standards of excellence expected at McGill. Several universities across the country struggle adjusting to policy changes for foreign students that drive down income from international tuition fees. Quebec's universities have also faced foreign student enrollment caps and an overhaul of tuition funding that took aim at English institutions. Concordia confirmed it spent $780,000 in legal fees to fight the changes, landing some wins. But the cash-strapped university announced several measures, including a hiring freeze and ending limited-time contracts for 63 faculty members.
There are better solutions that would better help the long-term success of Canadian universities.
English professor Stephen Yeager says this is a blow for staff and students.
What if we tried to work together to look at the brass tacks fundamentals of the situation and try to improve it instead of just these knee-jerk, reactive, oh, well, let's just cut this mentality.
Universities have also said that governments essentially sent the message that foreign students are not welcomed here and that too is hurting finances. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Montreal.
A Ukrainian delegation is set to meet U.S. officials in Florida on Sunday to advance peace negotiations. But their visit comes in the wake of a Ukrainian attack on a Russian shadow fleet of mercenary ships in the Black Sea. The Ukrainian Security Service releasing this video today, apparently showing its sea drones attacking 2 Russian oil tankers. It happened off the coast of Turkey. It's believed the attack could severely impact the transportation of Russian oil. Hours later, Moscow launched a drone attack on the outskirts of Kyiv, killing at least 1 person and injuring several others. U.S. President Donald Trump taking to social media today, announcing that the airspace around and above Venezuela should be considered closed in its entirety. It's ramping up tensions in the Caribbean, with some fearing a U.S. land invasion of Venezuela is on the horizon. President Nicolas Maduro's government is dismissing Trump's directive as a colonialist threat. In Hong Kong, a makeshift memorial is growing in tribute to the victims of that deadly high-rise fire. Crowds lined up today to lay flowers near the site of the blaze that has claimed at least 128 lives. The death toll, though, is expected to grow, with 150 people still missing. The fire ripped through the massive apartment complex on Wednesday. An Ontario man who is blind is encouraging others with disabilities to fight back if they feel they're being discriminated against in the workplace. It comes after a recent victory in a human rights case. CTV's Kamal Karamali has more on that.
This is a Braille display.
This equipment, a Braille display, and software that reads what's on your computer screen is essential for Eric Burgraff to do most jobs, since he's completely blind. And that usually leads to a lot of rejection.
I applied for 40 jobs maybe, and just not getting any traction whatsoever.
But about 8 years ago, after interviewing with one company, a call center based in Ontario, he says he was directly told they couldn't accommodate his needs.
They committed to providing the tools for work. Then they left a voicemail on my phone and just said, we can't do it. And that was it.
Did you feel discriminated against?
Of course. Of course.
Now, the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario, in a recently published decision, has ordered the call center company to pay Burgraff $20,000 for injury to dignity and more than $8,000 for lost wages, finding that the decision not to hire the applicant as a result of his blindness is discriminatory. The Convergys call center used to be right here at this strip mall in Welland, Ontario, but shut down in 2018. Convergys then merging with another company to form Concentrix. When we reached out to Concentrix for comment for this story, they did not get back to us in time for our deadline. In the hearing, the employer had claimed the software that Burgraff needed was not compatible with its computer systems.
The unemployment rate facing Canadians with disabilities is not only a national crisis, it's a national shame.
In the bin that's now full of blocks?
For Burgraff and his family, it feels like a small victory.
The more people who speak up, the faster we can change the state of things.
And a chance to encourage other people with disabilities to push back against discrimination. Kamal Karamali, CTV News, St. Catharines, Ontario.
Coming up.
This is by far the most challenging thing that I've ever taken on.
How researchers are trying to carve out a new path for Canada in the final frontier. When it comes to women's curling in this country, we now know who will be going for gold in February at the Winter Olympics in Italy.
And the hands come out. Rachel Homan will go to Cortina.
Rachel Homan and her team from Ottawa dominated in the second game of a best-of-3 final in Halifax this afternoon, beating Nova Scotia's Christina Black 12-3. Homan represented Canada at the 2018 Olympics, but finished off the podium. Back to the topic of AI, and as was mentioned earlier in the show, the Alberta government is now considering using it to draft legislation involving the standards for whiskey. CTV's Kathy Lee takes a closer look at what would be a first for the country.
This right here is our Alberta Prairie style.
Each bottle carefully crafted with homegrown ingredients.
Honey is the raw material for that alcohol.
Jordan Ramey says the sweet notes gives one of the whiskeys in this Alberta distillery its unique flavor.
We're producing some of the world's highest quality whiskey, but we're not telling that story on an international level.
But perhaps in the future, as the government is creating the Alberta Whiskey Act to define what's legally Alberta whiskey, from the ingredients and character to the taste.
An act such as this really helps to explain and codify the standards for what this premium style product encompasses.
What's inside this act may be less surprising than who is writing it. The UCP will use artificial intelligence.
I'm not aware of a jurisdiction in Canada that has used AI to write legislation. We're not just going to have AI write it and then walk away. It's going to be human inputs, oversight.
Experts warn the guardrails are essential as AI can invent facts. And while the move is unprecedented in Canada, some American states have already tested AI in the lawmaking arena.
The world is moving at a pace that even government has to think about adaptation. I do anticipate that every province across Canada is looking at Alberta to see how this works and how they can apply AI in their own workflows.
Comes up through the helmet here.
Ramey has poured his insights into the act and is more than open to AI in the mix.
The best way to really look at what artificial intelligence is it's a collaborator and a partner.
A partner in a mission to build something else the province can be known for. Kathy Lee, CTV News, Calgary.
Still ahead, reaching for the stars. Why researchers in Manitoba are over the moon in becoming a bigger player in space exploration. In Manitoba, a group of researchers are building a satellite, and as CTV's Alex Carper reports, they're aiming to go where no Canadian spacecraft has gone before.
So this is a CubeSat.
This satellite may look small, but it carries some large aspirations.
This is by far the most challenging thing that I've ever taken on.
Philip Ferguson and his Starlab team at the University of Manitoba are developing a lunar exploration spacecraft called CubeSat, which will not only orbit the moon, but also send a device to the lunar surface to collect scientific data.
We're looking for different kinds of minerals that we could potentially use as fuel, or minerals that we could use to help support life on the moon as we practice to get ready for Martian colonizations.
This is the first time a Canadian spacecraft will leave Earth and go into lunar orbit. Andrew Bowman says this is a great opportunity for students like himself to work with industry leaders on important projects.
I'm a PhD student, but there are master's students and probably will be undergraduate students involved as well. So really getting all levels trained and qualified to help with all the future missions.
This satellite is scheduled to launch sometime in late 2027, but it's not just researchers working on this device. The university is co-developing this satellite with Indigenous groups and youth.
My experience as a child about my fascination of stars, and I know many of our kids are like that.
Some hope that kind of engagement will inspire the next generation.
Science and engineering is part of their culture and heritage, so we want to bring that and give them some exciting applications for today.
Ferguson believes this will be the first of many lunar missions led by Manitobans.
How can we use the moon in the future as a stepping stone to get to Mars?
It may be a small satellite for space, but Ferguson said it's certainly a giant leap forward for Canadian exploration of our closest celestial neighbor. Alex Carper, CTV News, Winnipeg.
Still ahead, the best of both worlds in the Maritimes. Why the quest is on for the best of these popular South Asian snacks. In the lead up to the holidays, we just had to show you how some dogs were decked out for the season in Halifax. Dozens of pet owners and their pooches wearing festive attire as they paraded along a downtown street, an annual event involving canines both big and small, one even hitching a ride. It was all in support of a good cause, raising money for the SPCA. And finally for us, a taste of the Maritimes that isn't related to seafood. It involves a pair of food stands at a farmer's market in Fredericton that are a local tradition. And serving up the story, here's CTV's Sarah Plowman.
Saturday starts with a promise that if you wait, you'll be rewarded. But those samosas people crave will likely cost time, even if there are two samosa stands side by side. Tell me your strategy.
Just wait in line. Just wait your turn.
For many in Fredericton, samosas are a Saturday ritual. Some swear by the older stand. Samosa Delight started 35 years ago.
I get the hot beef, hot chicken, hot vegetable.
But experts' opinions differ. Yummy Samosas has a lot of fans.
We like these ones better because they're crispier.
Some days this is a long line, some days that one's short. Another day, that one's long, this one's short.
There's mere meters between them, but many have never dared to venture over.
This is the only samosa stand that I go to. I don't go to the other one. Have you had the other one before? No, honestly, no.
$9, please.
Both businesses are owned by families who immigrated to Canada and bought the companies from the previous owners.
I keep the recipe from the previous owner. I don't change it.
A recipe for success that's working here and next door as they expand selling their samosas in more stores.
It's just a really delicious samosas. Everybody loves it. And we have so many varieties around. We have about 32 varieties.
Despite any rivalry, don't expect any trash talk.
Some people, they prefer my samosa. Some people, they prefer their samosa.
The focus is on customers, not competition.
We've just been coming every Saturday since we were young, and a samosa's always good. Any time of day, too. Like it's a breakfast, it's a lunch, it's a supper.
A win-win every week. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Fredericton.
I've had those samosas. They are both worth the wait. That's it for us tonight. We want to leave you with scenes of the Christmas tree being lit up this evening outside Toronto City Hall. Have a great night.